Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. In the movie The Kid Who Would Be King, the story begins with a young boy named Alex, who lives with his mother Leah, who separated from his father a long time ago, and it seems he loves her very much. On the way to school, Alex receives a message from his friend Felix, informing him that two students are following him and want to beat him up. Alex tries to get to school quickly, and as soon as he arrives, he hears Felix's voice asking for help, so he goes to defend him. A student named Lance attacks him, hits him, and knocks him to the ground. At that moment, Alex gets very angry and fights with Lance. After that, the manager gets upset with Alex and threatens to fire him if he acts recklessly again. The next day, the principal forces Alex and Lance to attend behavior modification lectures together. During the lecture, Lance mocks Alex and insults him. After the lecture, Lance and his friend Kay run after Alex and want to beat him up. Alex tries to escape from them and enters an under-construction building to hide there. Suddenly, Lance and Kay reach his location, and Alex gets scared and accidentally falls from the top of the building and loses consciousness. Lance and Kay get very scared and think he is dead, so they run away quickly. But Alex wakes up and nothing has happened to him because the distance he fell from isn't far. He starts looking for a way out and discovers a rock, easily pulling a sword from it. Alex calls Felix and asks him to meet. After that, Alex and Felix sit down to look at the sword, and Alex notices that there is writing on it in Latin. Felix uses a translation app and finds out that the sword originates from a city called Tenta. When Alex hears the name of the city, he believes the sword is special because his father lived there. Alex goes and takes a book his father had given him a long time ago, which tells the story of a king named Arthur who fought against evil, and when he died, he plunged his sword into the ground and no one could ever pull it out. Alex is convinced that this might be King Arthur's real sword, so he hides it and goes to sleep. The next day, a teacher talks to the students and introduces them to a new student named Morton, and the students start mocking him because he looks older than them. At that moment, Alex is very puzzled because he notices that Morton is watching him all the time, and he is afraid of him. After that, Morton talks to Alex and tells him that he knows he is the one who pulled Arthur's sword, and he explains that in 4 days there will be a solar eclipse, and at that time a woman named Morgana will emerge from underground and will sweep across the entire world. Alex ignores him, thinking that Morton is a crazy person, then leaves him and walks away. On his way home, Felix talks to Alex and wonders how Morton knew he was the owner of the sword. Alex gets very scared and decides to return the sword to its place to avoid any problems that might arise because of it. At night, Alex wakes up to a strange sound, so he goes to his room window to find out the source of the noise, and he is shocked when he sees a terrifying monster emerging from the ground and approaching him. At that moment, he hears the sound of something breaking in the house, so he goes out to see what is happening, and he is shocked when he sees that the monster is holding a sword and heading towards his room. At that moment, Alex takes Arthur's sword and stands in front of the monster to fight it. But the monster drops the sword from his hand and almost defeats him, only for the monster to suddenly disappear. After that, Alex finds Morton lying on the ground, talks to him, and understands that he was the one who saved him from the monster. Morton then asks him to meet the next day at a restaurant to explain everything. Suddenly, Morton turns into a bird and leaves the place. After that, Alex sits down and starts reading the book his father gave him, and discovers that Morgana is King Arthur's sister, and that she had previously tried to kill him to inherit the throne, but Arthur was stronger than her and imprisoned her underground. Unfortunately, when Alex pulled out the sword, he freed her, and now he has the task of defeating Morgana and saving the world from her evil. Alex is shocked when he finds in the book information about an old man with magical abilities named Merlin, and he assumes that this old man is Morton because he turned into a bird in front of him. The next day, Leah goes to Alex's room to wake him up for school, and she is shocked to find him asleep with the sword in his hand. She talks to him and understands that Arthur is a fictional character, and she asks him to return the sword to the place where he found it, but Alex refuses and leaves the house. After a while, he and Felix arrive at the restaurant and talk to Morton, and Alex discovers that his real name is Merlin. Merlin explains to him that he disguised himself as a boy to talk to him without fear, and tells him that the monster that attacked him is a soldier from Morgana's army. He asks him to prepare to fight her and prevent her from destroying the world. Alex is scared and hands him the sword, explaining that he is just a child and cannot fight her. At that moment, Merlin transforms into his true form and uses his magical powers to show Alex what the world would look like if he refused to fight Morgana. Alex is shocked when he sees destruction and fire everywhere. After that, Alex returns to the place where he found the sword, talks to Felix, and feels confused about what he should do. At that moment, Lance and Kay appear and try to take the sword from him. Alex embeds the sword in the rock and makes them understand that it will be theirs if they can pull it out. Lance tries to pull the sword, but he fails. Alex tells him that he is the only one capable of pulling the sword, and he asks them to become his friends and to watch him pull the sword in front of them, and they agree. When Alex draws the sword, Lance attacks him, takes the sword, and mocks him. But suddenly, a soldier from Morgana's army emerges from the ground, causing the sword to drop from Lance's hand and nearly kill him. However, Alex saves him at the last moment. More soldiers emerge, and Lance throws gasoline on them and ignites it. But he is shocked when he discovers that the fire has no effect on them. Alex and his friends take off and flee the place, and they are surprised when they notice the disappearance of people from the city. They discover that the appearance of Morgana leads to the disappearance of humans. Suddenly, the soldiers arrive at their location and chase them, and one of the soldiers hits Kay. Then, Kay takes the car and tries to escape with her friends, but one of the soldiers appears in front of her. After that, Alex sits down with Lance and Kay, tells them everything, and asks for their help to face Morgana's attack. They indeed agree to help him. The next day, Alex and his friends head towards the city of Tantanchil, believing that Morgana is there. As mentioned in the book, Merlin joins them to help them reach her, using his magical powers to open a portal that quickly takes them to the archaeological site. There, Merlin makes a sword for each of them and begins training them to face Morgana. During the training, the trees turn black when Morgana controls them and attacks them. Merlin transports them at the last moment, but his strength diminishes after using magic, making him need to rest to regain his power. Lance tries to take the sword and leave, but Alex stops him. The sword is broken in the battle, and Alex is frustrated by Lance's recklessness. Alex seeks the help of the Lady of the Sea, who restores the sword to its original state. Lance apologizes and decides to stay with Alex to confront Morgana. They then encounter a team of scouts, and Alex suggests taking their horses, but they suddenly disappear. The Morgana soldiers return and chase Alex and his friends, who flee into the forest. Alex realizes that the soldiers are following the one with the sword, so he lures them to a high cliff where they fall into the water and die. In the morning, Alex visits his aunt's house to look for his father. She explains to him that his father was a failure and reckless, and that he disappeared a year ago. Alex is saddened to see the truth and feels disappointed, but he returns to the mission after his friends encourage him. Merlin shows his support and returns the book to him, revealing the castle where Morgana lives. Alex and his friends arrive at the castle and enter through a long tunnel where tree branches attack them, but Alex manages to escape. Morgana appears and transforms into a terrifying monster, and Alex decides to confront her. He stabs her with the sword, causing her pain and destroying the place. Alex escapes with his friends, believing he has defeated Morgana. When he returns home, he sees Leah sleeping and feels relieved for having discovered the truth, despite his sadness about his father. On the second day, he wakes up and thinks about protecting the trees around his house. At that moment, Merlin comes to him and he understands that Morgana is still alive and hasn't died because he doesn't possess any of the knight's qualities. And he tells him that one of the knight's qualities is to be a truthful and brave person, and also not to be upset with the people who love him. At that moment, Alex remembers that he is upset with Leah, so he goes to her, apologizes, and also tells her about the sword, but she doesn't believe him. So he takes her to the lake, communicates with the Lady of the Sea, and asks her to bring him the sword. And indeed, the sword emerges from the water, and she is convinced by his words. After that, Alex meets with his friends, and they learn that there are only 6 hours left until the solar eclipse begins. He realizes that Morgana is still alive and will attack humans, and they decide at that moment to ask for help from the school students because the number of Morgana's soldiers will be large and they won't be able to fend them off alone. After a while, they arrive at the school, and Alex talks to the students and starts telling them about the sword, explaining that the world is in danger and that if they refuse to help him, unfortunately, Morgana will force the students to fight with her. After that, the students set traps all over the school, and Merlin starts teaching them how to use the sword. At that moment, a solar eclipse begins, and a large number of Morgana's soldiers emerge from underground, all attacking the school. The students use the traps they made and manage to eliminate a group of soldiers, and they continue to fight bravely. Alex notices that the number of soldiers is increasing, so he asks the students to go up to the school rooftop. At that moment, Morgana appears and transforms into a gigantic monster, breathing fire on them. Alex gets an idea and makes Morgana run after him, while at the same time, the students cut the ropes on her and prevent her from moving. Merlin uses his magical power and helps him pin her in place. At that moment, Alex climbs onto the coral and cuts off her head with a sword, finishing her off. Finally, life returns to normal, and the students are very happy that they saved the world. The next day, Alex goes to the lake and decides to throw the sword into it. Merlin talks to him and explains that his mission is over and that he will appear to him again if the world needs him one day. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button to get more new videos. See ya!